In the last tutorial, I showed you how to do a tabular join of attributes that were in a CSV file to a polygon shape file. And here I have loaded up that same shape file where if I click the attribute table, you can see that it has the same fields that we had in the last demo: community district, healthcare facilities, and population. So in this demo, I'm going to show you how to calculate a new field. And in this case, we're going to divide the population by the number of healthcare facilities so that we can get a sense of how many people are served in each community district by a single healthcare facility. So the higher the number, that means that there are fewer facilities per person. And to do this, I'm going to click on this little icon that looks like an abacus, which is available here inside of the attribute table, as well as up here in the main window. And this is called the field calculator. I'll open it up. It can look a little bit intimidating at first, but what we need to do here is pretty simple. So I'll keep create a new field checked. I can also use this to update an existing field, which would overwrite any of my existing fields, but that is going to potentially lose data. And so it's safer to create a new field instead of overwriting anything. I'm going to call this pop per facility. And by default, it is defined as an integer. In this case, I'd like there to be 1 decimal point after the value of population divided by facility. So I'm going to click on decimal number, which is also called a real value. And then we've got the output field length and precision, which is a little confusing as language, but basically the precision is the number of decimal places that you can have in your output value. And then the field length is the total number of digits in the output value. So this output will store up to 10 digits with 3 of them after the decimal place. So I'm going to just have 1 value after my decimal place. That's the amount of precision that I would like to have for this calculation. And then here in the expression window, I'm going to enter my population variable divided by healthcare facilities. And I can do that by selecting fields and values, clicking the little arrow, and then I'm just going to double click on population. And I can either type a slash or I can click it right down here. And then I'm going to double click on healthcare facilities. And if I wanted to, I could just type these instead. QGIS is fairly flexible, at least in recent versions, where I don't actually even need to put these variable names inside of quotation marks, and I also don't need to have spaces there, but I will put them there just for readability. And you'll see I still have this valid preview result. I'm going to click OK. And now I can see my new variable. I can also sort it. I can see that these community districts that are not actual community districts, rather they're things like parks and airports, have null results, and that is fine. And then the community district with the highest ratio of healthcare facilities to population is District 5 in Manhattan, which is in Midtown. And the district with the lowest share of facilities per person is Queens Community District 10, with almost 12,000 people per healthcare facility. Another way to examine the distribution of the values that I just calculated is with something called the statistical summary tool. So I'll click on this pink E symbol. So when you load this up, first you'll select the layer that you want to examine. In this case, there's only 1 in the project. And then second, you will select the variable that you'd like to look at specifically. So I will select this new variable of population per facility. There are 59 values. The sum in this case is not very meaningful, but I can see that the average or mean number of people per healthcare facility is 3,600, whereas the median is a little over 3,000. I can see the same thing I just saw in the attribute table, which is that the minimum is 524 and the maximum is 11,948. And I can also see some other basic statistics like the 25th percentile and the 75th percentile. In the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to actually symbolize those values on your map so that you can visually see where there is the largest and smallest number of healthcare facilities per person. There's one last thing that I'll need to do in order to finish this up, and that is to save the changes to my shapefile. So there is now a little change. Before I was adding a new field, this was a solid purple square, but now there's a little indication that it is being edited. And if I go to layer, I can unclick toggle editing and then click save. And then now this goes back to a solid purple square to mean that my layer has been saved with the new field that I created. And that is now stored permanently in the shapefile on my computer.